Welcome to Spiritual Insurgency, the daily edition. Today is Friday,
Thank God it's Friday.
and we've got lots to cover. So, Aaron, go ahead and kick us off. What are we covering today?
China to face up to 245% tariffs due to retaliatory actions, as per White House briefing. So we're in the middle of a trade war. I think that I've been told, not I think, that this is temporary pain that we must bear for the longer term good of the nation. I'm having a hard time swallowing that pill. Jason, can you help me understand why this trade war is beneficial to the American worker and the American people?
Well, for far too long, the American public has been screwed without knowing that they've been screwed. And so we have tariffs on products imported from the United States into these other countries that these other countries have placed that have taken an impact on the economics of Americans for a long time. And so, simply what Trump is trying to do is he's trying to bring these countries to the negotiating table and saying, look, we are going to place a tariff on goods imported from your country if you don't remove the tariffs from products imported from our country. It's a reciprocal trade agreement that Trump is trying to get to. And China is trying to buck and say, we're not going to do that. Well, if you look at the course of history and if you look at the course of the last couple decades, the amount of goods being imported in across the globe from China has far outweighed the Americans, and we are no longer really producing goods that are being imported to all these other countries. And part of it is because we have tariffs from American goods being brought into other countries that is limiting the American potential of bringing back manufacturing. So as Trump looks to bring back manufacturing into the United States, manufacturers will only be successful if we have reciprocal trade partnerships that take place throughout the globe. And so I think that's what some of what the American public is missing when we talk about these tariffs is that people are looking at it. The vast majority of the American public doesn't even understand what a tariff is, but they also don't understand the repercussions of what has taken place over the last couple of decades in terms of limiting the potential of American manufacturing and bringing their product to a global stage.
So are you bottom line in favor of this trade war and tit for tat?
I, I I think that if you look at what Trump has done, and if you look at now 5 years of a Trump presidency, and you look at it from a open minded viewpoint, number one, Trump has a definitely a very strong rhetoric when it comes to a lot of these things, and the rhetoric is sometimes just there to force a negotiation. But most of the time, when it does force a negotiation, we see that the American public benefits. And we saw that just before Trump took office. I mean, you look at what happened with Justin Trudeau and Canada coming to the table before Trump was even president, and Trudeau since basically stepping down as prime minister, um, which that's a huge stepping stone in a relationship with Canada. But then Canada also has backtracked in its partnership with the United States since Trump took office. And so it's very interesting. I think that ultimately at the end of the day, similar to previously in his previous administration, we're seeing a lot of threats of tariffs. But as we've already seen with the Trump administration, as those deadlines come up, there's further negotiation and delays on these tariffs. And so I wouldn't be shocked if we do end up at the end of the day with a better offer for the American public than what we presently have. But in the meantime, we are going to see this tit for tat exchange, and I think that the news media, in terms of their reporting of it, has painted the Trump administration in a very negative light and has brought this public pressure against it. Well, I do truly feel like Trump has the Americans' best interest in mind, and that the news media should probably be uh, a little bit more neutral in its reporting of this instead of trying to bias the entire American public against this trade war that's taking place.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's something that we need to look into and really understand as an American people. is this trade war ultimately going to end up in a good place or in a bad place? I think there's a lot of debate about that. Another story that came up financially related, reported out of Fox News: Texas poised to create its own version of Doge as bill passes both chambers. And I think this is interesting because in the era of state power, I believe Trump has sort of led the way and inspired states to hold their treasury departments in their states accountable fiscally for the amount of money they're spending. The bill in Texas would create a new Texas Regulatory Office, which aims to streamline state regulations and eliminate unnecessary rules. When the Bible says fair weights and measures, I think this is exactly very biblical. I think that our governments need to be good stewards of our tax dollars, and there needs to be transparency. There needs to be accountability. I think it's biblical. What are your thoughts of states following suit of Doge?
I mean, I think back to Reagan's most scary words, right? I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And for far too long, the American public has trusted the federal government in the way that they spend our taxpayer dollars, and at the same time has trusted our state governments and our local municipalities in the way that they have spent their dollars. These are dollar bills. This is currency that belongs to the American public that the states, the municipalities, and the federal government are spending, and spending it in such a way that does not benefit the American people. And so I applaud what Texas is doing. I wish that all the states would do it. I think that there needs to be accountability for how taxpayer dollars are spent, and the fact that as government continues to grow, which it should not, we have dollar bills going towards things that counteract what our beliefs are, what our worldview is, and what the worldview of millions of Americans are. And they don't even know that they're funding, by paying their taxes, that they're funding these atrocious, satanic principles and satanic rituals and satanic research that's taken place, that they are essentially funding.
Breitbart's reporting that Palisades Malibu residents sue Los Angeles over fire empty reservoir. If we remember, it was in January, right at the beginning of the new year, that LA was on fire. They found a reservoir nearly empty. They also did not have workable fire hydrants. Breitbart News is reporting the Santa Ynez Reservoir atop the Palisades, managed by the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, which could hold up to 117 million gallons, was nearly empty at the start of the wildfire season. And interesting that this is in one of the most exclusive areas of LA. You have lots of powerful, wealthy people that are involved in this. And so I say this because, unlike North Carolina, where it was a lot of poor people that didn't seem to go anywhere, I believe that this lawsuit could potentially hold government agencies accountable. I'm all for this.
I mean, without going too far down the conspiracy track, this was a
Let's go.
fire that seemed pretty dang convenient.
Sure.
I mean, important files. You have all these Hollywood elites that are caught up in the Diddy scandal. They're caught up in Epstein. And all of a sudden, homes start burning where there's evidence that is being stored there. It just sounds like a very convenient fire that took place. And at the same time, convenient in the fact that all of a sudden, well, the reservoir that is going to protect these $1 million homes all of a sudden is under repair, and the fire hydrants are under repair, and everything that is used to fight this fire has been limited by a super overly paid superintendent of fires in California, who's paid close to $1 million, a DEI hire that has no clue on how to protect the state and its citizens from these huge wildfires. I mean, this became one of the most expensive fires in the history of the United States, if not the most expensive. I haven't looked at the latest stats, but there's a lot of concerning pieces to it that just don't add up. I mean, this is a very populated, densely populated area of California that doesn't sit in this like vast forested area. I mean, this was sweeping through neighborhoods. without this drastic amount of forestry, not like we saw in the Black Forest fires in Colorado or the Waldo Canyon fires. I mean, this is densely populated areas that this fire was blazing through.
Well, since we're strolling down conspiracy lane, I want to bring up some interesting aspects of the fire. One was this theory that the smart meters triggered this fire because if you actually look at the aftermath, many of the trees were not burnt, yet perfect plots of homes were decimated. So I'm trying to understand the physics of how a fire could skip trees and brush, but yet only burn homes. And then there were homes next to it that didn't burn. Have you heard of the smart meter theory?
I have not heard of the smart meter theory. I do know that oftentimes if a tree is alive, it takes a lot more heat to basically catch that tree on fire because first it has to dry it out before it even catches fire because there's moisture inside. And oftentimes, as you hear with that loud cracking noise when you have moisture inside wood and you throw it in your fire pit and you hear that cracking, well, that's that moisture expanding the wood. And what we saw in Colorado was trees like literally exploding because the fire got so hot that it basically heated up and boiled the tree. And we saw explosions of trees. But the building material, which a lot of these homes were newer, the building material is supposed to basically withstand a lot more heat than what old building material used to. Um, it's a very interesting dynamic. But tell me more about the smart meters.
Well, I mean, the overall theory is that they were able to spark the fires via the power grid. They're using the smart meters as a mode that's connected to a central network that essentially initiated these fires. And the theory behind it is that they want to redevelop a lot of this area. It just is incredibly suspicious that the mayor of Los Angeles was out of town. You had uh, allegations that the power lines, which is also why the power company is involved in this lawsuit, actually created or initiated this fire. Um, but it's all ties into what happened in Hawaii. It ties into this idea of weaponized weather modification. I think when John was on the island of Patmos and he left as white as a ghost, I think it was because he was let in on how powerful the deep state and the oligarchs are at this point with their suppressed technology. I think we are approaching a time in the season of the church where we are in a science fiction film. But
Well, and when you look at it, like let's think back to Hawaii for a second. The incident commander for the Las Vegas massacre that took place at that concert all of a sudden gets hired in Hawaii right before this fire takes place that takes out a vast chunk of the island. Like there is some serious connections that either when you look at LA or you look at Hawaii or you look at any of these huge natural disasters that have taken place, you have to think one of two things. Either there is an absurd amount of gross negligence that has taken place on the part of the administrators in Los Angeles and in California, or this is blatant in the way that they've gone about attempting to pull off a serious crime that's affecting millions upon millions of American lives throughout the country. And if you want to go down the conspiracy theory even more, what's your thought on this? What was it? The sending Katy Perry up to space.
it looks fake. And I have an issue with them calling them astronauts on a mission. They were riders at an amusement park.
I mean, one of the comments was that the shuttle that came back into the planet, the capsule had no heat marks at all.
Mm-hmm.
Their explanation was that they never entered orbit and thus never entered the speed, and therefore didn't require as much deceleration upon entry that would have caused the heat marks. Then there's also conspiracy theorists out there that are talking about the fact that capsule was opened from the inside before Jeff Bezos took a crowbar to it to open it, and yet took them minutes to come out. It's just very interesting. And then why do you send Katy Perry up to space and Jeff Bezos' wife and these average, everyday, I don't want to say average because they're elites, but these average women from, I mean, they're not astronauts. They're not trained as astronauts. I think either they're trying to pump some stock in terms of trying to open up this idea that they can have space tourism. And this is nearly a pump of their stock and their pump of their business, which would be plenty enough reason to fake something like this.
Yeah, where they're also trying to prime the general public into accepting that that space is a potential battlefield. There's people that are theorizing that they want to prime the public for an alien invasion, that there's this psychological operation that's taking place. But I think we're running out of time, and this is a story that Jason shared with me from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Prayers answered. Kidnapped American Pastor Josh Sullivan rescued in deadly shootout. The American missionary who was kidnapped at gunpoint by masked men during his church service in South Africa has been rescued after a deadly shootout with his captors. Can you tell me about this story, Jason?
So, approximately, gosh, this would have been like 4 days ago, 5 days ago, 5 days ago. This pastor in South Africa, a missionary in South Africa from America, had multiple children, and his wife in attendance was kidnapped at gunpoint in South Africa. Props to the South African authorities who were able to rescue this man and rescue him expediently. It did not take them weeks to find this man. In fact, he was, they say it was about 20 minutes from where he was kidnapped. And the South African police basically get into a fire exchange, and 3 of these terrorists that have kidnapped this pastor end up dead. And so huge props to the South African authorities for being able to close this case quickly and return this missionary back to his family. This is not an outcome that we see often when it comes to missionaries overseas and their kidnapping. I mean, most of the time we do not find them alive, and we do not find them in underneath a week. And so huge props and huge blessing. Thank God for his safety and for his family.
KRDO is reporting 2 parties, 1 faith. Colorado Springs Purple Church focuses on unity during America's political divide. Colorado Springs, Colorado, it has a church called the Broadmoor Community Church, appealing to both the left and the right, saying that we need to come together in unity. You read the article, Jason. What's the crux of this?
Basically, there is a local pastor. She is claiming that we have this divide in the American church that is happening politically, and her attempt is to basically unify the Republicans and the Democrats under one church, calling it a purple church, and trying to bring back, this idea that the church should not be divisive. But in the process, she has said that she wants to eliminate all talk of pro-life and pro-choice. Basically, what it's boiling down to is this kind of lukewarm Christianity, and I would actually say cold Christianity, because the values that they're standing on, if you want to look at the situations that are taking place in America, this is a better way to put it. If you want to look at it like the situations that are going on in America and the debate that's going on in America as partisan, I think you're wrong. This is not partisan. It may appear partisan, but what it truly is it's a conflict of worldview. It's a conflict between the biblical worldview and the secular worldview, the humanistic worldview. And so if you want to look at it as partisan, fine. The Republicans are aiming more towards a biblical worldview, and the liberals and the left, the Democrats, are aiming towards a more secular, humanistic worldview. And if you want to look at this and try to say it's partisan, I think you've got it backwards. And so if a pastor wants to come in and say, we're going to get rid of the political divide, you're not actually getting rid of the divide that matters, which is the worldview divide, and the fact that a good chunk of our churches in America have a blatantly wrong worldview.
Amen. I think that the Church of Jesus Christ and the kingdom is most important. Well, let's wrap up this last story with the Daily Caller saying woke scolds accused sports reporter of being creepy by getting a girl's phone number. There was a Willie Ballard, a reporter for FanDuel's Braves network, was interviewing two female fans at the Braves Corona rooftop when his colleagues needed him to get the women's phone numbers before the game was over. So it's kind of this tongue-in-cheek kind of interaction where he was interviewing the fans and then asked for the phone number. The reason I bring this up is I believe we're in the middle of a cultural revolution. So on the surface level, it's as simple as the woke oligarchs are accusing this reporter of being creepy because he did what used to be considered up until 2016 one of the most natural things, which is a man to pursue a woman. They're literally trying to subvert the natural order, and the fact that they have a problem with a man respectfully asking for a woman's phone number, that in and of itself, I think, is an indictment of the revolution that we are in the midst of at the moment.
Oh my gosh, but if she was a tranny, we would be celebrating the fact that
So, Barry,
that a reporter asked for a tranny's phone number. I don't know this story at all. You're bringing it up the first time I'm hearing about it, but it just reminds me of like the idea that we also have this like these just overgrown children at the same time just roaming the earth, because this is the nonsense that my high school boys and my middle school boys go about in the youth programs that I coach and work with. Of, hey, I bet you can't get that girl's phone number. Like, I wonder how much of that was taking place in the background too. I could only imagine that there was some sort of like but then again, if you want to go, well, that's wrong, then you're taking the toxic masculinity approach as well, and we're getting into this idea that it's toxic for a man to pursue a woman. It's just complete absurdity, in my opinion. But what can I say? That's why we're here. Spiritual Insurgency every day, 3 p.m. Join us. We will see you tomorrow.
peace.
Peace.